Good evening, everyone. I'm back. Welcome to this night's episode of Monday Night's Analyst Desk. I'm Doom Geek. We're going to be taking a look at some games from last week. It's just me this week, but nonetheless, I'll go ahead and walk you through some of my thoughts and breakdowns of some of these exciting team fights. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. So, the matchup that we had today, or from last week, was, it looks like a Vayne, Zach, Vi, Lux, and Silas against Seraphine, Rammus, Jinx, Katarina, and Lilia. At a first glance, both teams look like they have all the pieces of a well-balanced team comp. You have the ability to go ahead and do potential picks via the Lux bindings, as well as maybe catching someone using Seraphine. But at the same time, they both have solid front lines. Notably, we have Cash's Zach, which has proven to be a powerful force in previous games, as well as Rammus on Team 2. Both have pretty late game carries here with Vayne and Jinx, as well as some assassination potential here with the Silas and the Katarina. The key difference here kind of being the Lilia here, which kind of seeing the enemy team, maybe the Lilia here versus the Vi. Lilia seeing the enemy team maybe is like a little more closer range, a little more chonky, going to be pretty good against that. But the Vi also has the ability just to single out a person here. Most likely either, you could use Jinx, you could do Seraphine. So there are a lot of options available to both teams. Off the bat, I'm not entirely sure which team is necessarily going to take it. I think it's really going to come down to how well each team executes. So with that, we can just jump straight into the first clip. So take a look here. Game's just went ahead and kicked off here. There's not a huge gold lead by any means. We're just kind of getting started off, so I'm going to hit play and let's see what happens. Right now, both teams kind of looking for things. Silas is in there a little bit off the beginning, but kind of backs off. And both teams, Silas once again looking for something here. Blue team controlling the bush. Red team playing a little bit defensive under tower, respecting the bush there. And right there, it may be Silas off screen has stolen Seraphine ult. A binding from Lilia, and now Silas positioning in the bush. Attempts to get an initiate on the Lilia, but an incredible flash from Lilia to go ahead and dodge it here. With the Zach positioning forward to potentially capitalize on the fight. Zach does get caught in the Jinx traps, and now Rammus, sensing blood in the water, dives into the backline off screen while Katarina tries to move forward as well. The blue team is able to stop the Katarina following up, meaning it's just Rammus diving into the back into Lux off screen. Vayne does go into the back to follow up on the Rammus. And we can go see now at this point the fight is split. We have both Rammus and Lux versus Rammus in the back, and we have this team fight up in the front here. So let's continue here. Rammus does get the kill on Lux off screen because most attention is here focused in the top, where Zach does get popped, having been pretty low health off the beginning of that fight, and Vi is still trying to go capitalize here to maybe take out the Katarina. Vi does take out the Katarina, but under tower pays it with her life. A big ult from Seraphine here, trying to stop the rest of blue team from capitalizing Rammus, who amazingly did manage to roll back to his team. So now it's currently 4v3, but the Seraphine is pretty far up when she positioned for that ulti. Seraphine pays for that with her life, Rammus is pretty low, still trying to put pressure here. Notably, both ADCs are still alive. I want to go ahead and commend both tanks here and the teams for keeping their ADCs alive and using that as a consistent source of damage. Rammus here finally goes down, being a little bit too low health. And Sylas here is still continuing to try to chase. Goes ahead and does catch the Lilia, but under tower, it looks like the Jinx is able to get the kill. So, oh, and a great dodge there by Vayne there. Super close fight. Maybe here Zach is going to be able to get a kill, but nope. Notice the rest of the blue team is up. The fight's pretty much over. Lux laser, just not quite enough yet. It's still pretty early game. So in this particular instance, both teams doing a really good job, with blue team only coming just a little bit ahead there. Super close from both teams. Great dodges. I think, as we were mentioning before, it's going to come down to execution in a lot of these things. Can the ADC stay alive? Can the front lines go and create that space for the teams? And I really think it's going to be interesting to see if that Rammus is going to continue to dive into the backline there and kind of pull the fight and split it. If they do split it, it's likely going to be Rammus onto the Vayne and Lux. And so then you're left with effectively like two skirmisher types, Sylas and Vi, against the rest of the team. And that they are skirmishers, so they'll excel in the non-team fight situation. So we'll go ahead and see. I think it's going to be a tricky one for red team to continue to try to do that. So on to the next clip here. We're going to go ahead. The game has progressed. The gold lead is favoring blue team by a little bit, but it's still not too big of a difference. And here we can see that Sylas and Vi do have most of blue team's gold, while on red team there isn't a clear gold leader here, but I will say that the ADCs are starting to get their items. Jinx does have 2 items, and Vayne still has 1. We see a ton of Heartseekers here. Interesting enough, Heartstealer from Vayne, Heartstealer from Zac, and Heartstealer on Katarina. It could be the Heartstealer meta, a new item that was introduced very recently. So, continuing this clip here, both teams are kind of fighting under red red inhib here. Rammus goes and dives to the back, as we were calling it before. Lux and Vayne are going to be likely targets here. Vayne goes and gets the immediate condemn here, trying to create the space. And now, once again, we're in this like split team fight situation. We have this split fight situation where we have Rammus in the front with Katarina quickly trying to follow back, and the Lilia, Seraphine, and Jinx versus the well, right now Vayne is versus the Vi, Zac, and Sylas still hasn't quite committed to which fight he's going in yet. So both teams now kind of go ahead and try to keep the fight split, but huge ulti by here by Seraphine about to kick off here. That could go ahead and hit a lot of folks here. We can very clearly here see that Rammus has split the Vayne and the Lux in the back. Big ulti from Seraphine, managing to hit multiple of the blue team skirmishers. Katarina trying to capitalize that with the immediate ulti, but we already see the Zac near the top winding up to go ahead and potentially cancel the Katarina out, cutting it short. That is the Katarina ult effectively finishes, but maybe shaving off just like a second of the Katarina ult there. And now we have, with a lot of blue team low, great Seraphine ult there. And we'll see if the Rammus is still able to keep the carries of the blue team out of the way, and they are. An aggressive flash here by Jinx to take out the Sylas, to try to go ahead and remove that assassin threat in the backline. But that does remove a key escape tool from her as she gets into very close range, and this is going to be a really tight fight here now. As we were talking before, just like on the previous one, the ADC staying safe is a big thing. We'll go ahead and see if this kind of plays out here. We have effectively Jinx walking right up to the tanks to try to go into the kill. Huge ulti by Lux here. This pause really shows the damage that's going to happen here. I think this is going to go ahead and pop the Lilia up there. And now we go ahead and see that the fight is now a 3v3. Lux is playing a very far safe behind. Does get hit by the snowball, so trying to go ahead and make sure that the Rammus can't get through the back. But the snowball does expire. Rammus is unable to go ahead and peel off the Jinx, for the Jinx, and now we are left with Zac and Lux coming out ahead here, and they're going to go ahead and take inhib off of this. Super close fights again. I want to say that both teams are doing a really good job of trying to keep the fights going, and it's really the minor details there. We're talking about like the losing flash there potentially to go ahead and as an escape tool. Minor spacing differences. I want to say this is really close, so let's go ahead and see like how the rest of the game plays out too. As we enter this third clip, one of the things to keep in mind is that these fights have been super clumped, really allowing Heartstealer to go ahead and shine in these particular situations. And I think that's really showing the strength of Heartsteel on Howling Abyss. We enter this final clip. Goal difference is super tight despite the 3 kill difference here. We'll go ahead and start kicking things off. Rammus once again kind of looking for red team positioning in the bush, potentially for a cheese here. Rammus does ulti into the back line. Now it's Rammus positioning himself in the back, popping Lux's Banshees here. As the rest of blue team capitalizes on the Rammus, something interesting here to notice is that Sylas at the top is going to go ahead and steal the Seraphine ult. Sylas does the Seraphine ult. By the time red team's kind of getting close, Rammus is at half health. So we'll go ahead and see if the red team can go ahead and make use of the time that Rammus has bought. It's not enough though, and using the Seraphine ult that was stolen manages to combo with this Lux ult, causing massive amount of damage to the red team. That was a huge play there, a combination from Lux and Sylas, ultimately decimating most of red team. And despite a pretty solid positioning of the Katarina ult here, the blue team is still too healthy, and that's going to be it for the red team, with the blue team taking it here all the way to the end. So, looking back at the game as a whole, I want to go ahead and call out that this was like I feel like this was a pretty close game. Both teams did a pretty great job making sure that the fights were kind of playing out. It was just some key small moments here that one team, in this case blue team, was able to capitalize on, and very minor things that maybe both teams could have switched up, but I thought like both teams did a great job in both team comp and gameplay, resulting in an exciting game of customs on Howling Abyss. As our new tradition, I wanted to go ahead and give a shout out to our MVP for this week. I really think that the Rammus plays from Hector were something to be commended. It could seem a little bit risky, but I can totally see the strategy that they were going for. The taunts were really solid, buying time for the rest of red team to go ahead and potentially collapse in. It's tricky though. I think despite the Rammus's best efforts, the Heartsteal on both teams as they started a team fight was a lot to come over. And we know that Heartsteal changes are coming soon for Howling Abyss. So good effort on both teams. A special shout out to Hector for those solid attempts to go ahead and keep the fight split. And with that, that's it for this after Thanksgiving segment of Monday Night Customs Analyst Desk. I look forward to seeing what exciting gameplay we have in store for us today. Catch you all later.